Hello and welcome to the Marvel panel discussion and review. We are continuing our X-Men series with X-Men 3: The Last Stand, and we only have Callum again.
Alright.
Because Anthony's busy once again. And that could be the trend for the foreseeable future, but I'm hopefully he finds some time to come on one of these again. But that's okay. Two's enough. Patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani. If you'd like to contribute to the channel, we have early access to videos, exclusive access to videos, and requesting videos for us to do. Twitter.com/Giandrozani to get in contact with us or to just check out what we've been talking about. Twitter has become quite a regular thing as of late, which I'm finding quite enjoyable. Just communicating with other people especially about Doctor Who mainly. But yeah, if any of you know any Marvel pages that I should follow, then suggest it, because I'll be interested to see if there are any that are to the same quality of the Doctor Who ones, because the Doctor Who ones are actually really social and quite fun. And I know that Marvel has a very big fan base, so it might be quite a crowded group, but I'd be interested to see if there are any that are similar, because I'd be interested to see what people think of my opinions on Marvel films, because some of them aren't particularly popular, as I've noticed. But yes, twitter.com/Giandrozani for that. Okay, Callum.
Yes.
Your 2-minute initial thoughts on the film called X-Men: The Last Stand.
Right. X-Men: The Last Stand. I mentioned this in the last one when I predicted that I felt that they'd been hinting at a war had been coming. And I assumed going into this that this would be the culmination of that this would be the film to tackle that idea. And it does, and it's not really a war at all. It's not a war at all. It's more of just a battle. Yeah.
Is this just like the most rushed finale you've ever seen?
Oh, it's incredibly rushed. But the thing is, right, and I have heard from many people that this is one of the worst X-Men films. And while I can see why, I don't think it's like abysmal. I just think it's not good.
Yeah,
I feel that there's stuff it gets wrong, but I think it's not like painfully bad.
Yeah, so what I would say is that I think this film is bad, not in the same way that other X-Men films are bad. Because other X-Men films are bad because they're either like really just sloppily made, or badly paced, or just like lightweight, or they betray characters and stuff, and just fuck up the continuity and whatnot. But the problem with this film is that the main problem is that it's just disappointing, because it's such a blunted version of what you'd think this would be. And when I got to the end of it, I was thinking, like, they probably thought that this was going to be like Civil War, but it's probably more like Iron Man 2. Like, it's got such a blunt end on it. Because fucking, I mean, I know we're already going into like details, but Wolverine kills the woman he loves, and then at the end of the film, he's standing on a balcony smiling.
Yeah.
It's just like, where's the consequences? Where's the backlash? Where's the pain? It's so rushed, isn't it?
Yeah, it just sort of.
And isn't
this the like shortest X-Men film so far?
Yeah, it was like an hour and 40 minutes, which is that's like the length of like a Pixar film.
It's a very. I would say decently paced film. It doesn't feel like it drags on too long, but just feel like it feels like it maybe is problems that it tries to get through it too fast, the actual
Mm.
meat of it.
There's
And that
hardly
is a
any
problem.
development. There's hardly any development at all. It just
No,
all happens.
yeah, there are characters that don't really, I would say, change into.
Oh, oh,
Oh
oh,
no, I think the screen just went a bit there, but uh, it's just so odd because I feel like there are stuff in there that I thought were pretty decent, but there's a lot of stuff that I thought was kind of mediocre at best.
mm,
It's like I think probably some characters literally are non-existent when I was hoping from the last film they'd get real development. And the biggest examples are Cyclops and Pyro. They were, I generally
Cyclops.
thought,
Jeez. Yeah.
I generally thought that those two characters were actually going to have a bigger role, but they are reduced to either dying within the 10 minutes or being a completely different character from the first with no like actual arc to benefit it. It's like it's a real shame. Characters that I liked from the first two films, like Logan, of course, are still great, but I felt like it didn't. Oh,
Yeah.
it
I was
just.
just checking that.
Oh,
That was the
okay.
first recording.
I just glitched out for some reason, but yeah, Logan was great, but it felt like it drifted away from hinting at all at its past at all. That kind of sort of just disappeared
Yeah.
when you thought, oh, maybe they're not going to reveal much, but just sort of have that in the back of his mind. But
Yeah.
they didn't at all.
I think the main problem with this film is that they took the like it feels like, I mean, I could be wrong because there's obviously a lot of production things that happened with this film that went wrong, but um to me it feels like in a lot of ways they took the criticism from the first two films and took it in the complete opposite direction, but they took it way too far. So, like, one of the things that I said about X-Men films is that they need to be focused. Like, X-Men 2 felt very unfocused, had too much going on, and it was too
Yeah.
long. Um, like, it was 2 hours 20, but we got fuck all character development, which is just bizarre. Like, you never see that in a film. So what they did was they made this film very focused, but it became so focused that there was just barely anything to take from it. It's
Yeah.
this film is like 45 minutes shorter than X-Men 2. It's insane how short this film is, considering this is meant to be the finale of the trilogy, or of
Yeah.
sorts.
Well,
Like,
yeah, when you're thinking about the trilogy of these first three X-Men films, it's meant to be this combination of the mutants versus the humans. Like that's what this trilogy has been. So
yeah, it's
as
meant to
a
be epic,
finale
but
to it, it's very disappointing.
yeah, like it's meant to be epic, but by the end of it, I feel pretty indifferent.
Yeah,
Like, I don't feel much about it one way or the other.
yeah.
No, it's disappointing.
That's how I feel that basically that, and it's kind of just a massive disappointment.
Yeah. Um. Right. So, shall we move on to the characters now?
Yeah.
So we'll go for Logan, aka Wolverine.
I mean, again, he's probably the overall the best part about it because it's Wolverine. He's always entertaining whenever he's on the screen. Like the opening sequence with him in the simulation with all the other mutants, he was absolutely the best part of that. Like he was generally like very funny and very charismatic, and it was fun to watch. So, and then everything else, while he's fine, like I said, the whole story of his past isn't even hinted at once. Like
Yep.
I don't want it to be front and like in front of the story. I'm fine with it being just sort of background and just being the back of his mind, sort of giving you just a little bit more to get you that a little bit more interested in what is going on with him. But they sort of don't do that at all. It's more fully focused on Jean with him, basically.
Yeah, well, what I said in the last two reviews is that despite the fact that Wolverine is the cover star of these films and he's always got top billing, he always feels like, apart from like the probably this section in X-Men 1 where they're like in the fighting cage in the snow, apart from that, to me he always feels like a side character. It's odd. It's so weird how underutilized he is in these films. And I think in this one he's even more underutilized than the other ones because, like you said, his backstory never gets brought up. He's just he's just, you know, the main character of the film, and then he's important to the climax, but that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
to me, it's a running thing that this film makes a lot of very odd choices in its direction, I think, with a lot of characters.
Yeah, it
And
would be
Logan
like,
is definitely one of them.
I feel like Wolverine in this film, like imagine like Iron Man and Endgame, right? Where you get like a small amount of him and Pepper Potts together. He's in a few action sequences, and then he does the snap at the end. But there's barely any of like the best bits. Like you don't get like the bit with Nebula. You don't get the bit with him and Steve. You don't get any of that stuff. You don't get him with his father. Like it would be like, imagine like a really stripped back version of Iron Man from Endgame where you take out like 75% of the best stuff, and that's what Wolverine is in this film. Very entertaining, very enjoyable, always great in the action scenes, and has significance, I guess, but throughout the film, always feels like a side character, and it's annoying.
Yeah. That's basically how I feel. It just feels like he's quite wasted, and it's a real shame because I want more of him and I want more of his story.
Yep. Especially considering X-Men 2 was like leading towards that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I would say, like, if I didn't have any knowledge, I would say, well, thankfully the next one we're watching is all based around his backstory. But yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, underutilized. Like,
yeah,
like I love Wolverine, but just why? Like, why didn't they spend like an extra 45 minutes or even 20 minutes just like on him? Because that's what this film needed. It needed more development.
Yeah, and it did. And it's just, I get, it's like, it feels so weird because his whole quote unquote romance with Jean, like, they are constantly referencing it, but it doesn't, I personally don't feel like it's developed enough for me to care. I don't think, because they never, it's so weird because, like, she dies in last film when her and Logan did have quite a few interactions, and there was an ounce of romance there, but they're not like together. And the first one is also when it's introduced and stuff, so I don't feel like it properly develops it to make you at the point feel like you care.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue I have, is that I don't feel like this romance is convincing enough.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be something that I'm going to say a lot in this review, but a lot. Basically, my common thought on this film is that it just feels blunt. Everything is so cut short, and just not. It's not enough.
It's like the complaint of the last one was that it was too long. This one is that it's too short.
Yep.
Look, it needed another 15 minutes, I would say.
This felt like if there was like an X-Men series finale cartoon, TV show, not X-Men The Last Stand.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel like it's in that realm of like emotionally draining or like impactful for the whole franchise at all.
Fucking like the Doctor Who series finales feel more final than this film.
Yeah, and they are way more over the top. But what makes it great is its characters and the stakes. You do feel the stakes, even if sometimes they are done again and again. there's still something there for you to latch onto. With this, it just feels empty, I would say.
Yeah. Wow. Interestingly, the next character that's listed on this, like the second top character on this listed, is Storm, which is interesting because
I mean,
third film,
like,
still no
yeah.
character.
And it's really odd because at the beginning of the film, they make it set up that she was going to go on this arc of replacing Professor X, that maybe she can't handle it, and that she has to learn to sort of ease up, I guess, because that's at the beginning of the film, she's like very strict on the simulation, saying like, "Why did you do what you did, Logan? You went off the rails," kind of thing. She has a conversation with Professor X, saying like he would say that one day Storm will take over the school. But
Like I was gonna say that Storm is like the Maria Hill of the X-Men, but
yeah,
except she's meant to be a main character.
but doesn't go on any like sort of story arc. It just sort of like,
Yeah.
oh, she's now the head of the school now because she's starting to step up, but we don't see any sort of like struggle that maybe she doesn't think she's good enough right now.
Yeah.
She doesn't think that she can live up to the mantle of Professor X. Something like that would have been just something for her to do, something for us to connect to her. But it doesn't do that, so you can't get connected to her at all, other than she's one of the X-Men.
Yep.
That's all you can really say about Storm.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a story arc there that is begging to be bursted out, but they don't give it enough time. They give her like 3 scenes of the arc that you think she's going to go on, but she doesn't get anything else. It just sort of Professor X says she might take over for him. Professor X dies. She then takes over the school. Those are the 3 points that where she actually does something. But there's nothing in between to make you feel like there's any conflict within herself, that maybe she doesn't feel she's good enough, and then she overcomes that. There's nothing like that at all. It's just A, B, and C, and then that's it.
Exactly. And like even though she technically does change her accent through these 3 films, like Halle Berry's performance, she is in the exact same emotional state in every single scene. Like she never changes. She's always the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, like her hair changes, I suppose.
Yeah, her hair literally changes every single one.
I mean, and Halle Berry doesn't change because she doesn't age. So, like, she looks nice, I suppose. She's got cool superpowers. She's a part of authority, but what's her character? Nothing.
Yeah.
3 films, and she still doesn't have a character.
She hasn't changed. Well, she's still the same, like, character from X-Men 1.
Like, I know, like, in the Spider-Man reviews, we were saying like how like Harry Osborn can sometimes feel a bit one-dimensional, but like he feels fully fledged compared to
the first 2 films. I think perfectly establish his character and his arc. It all gets ruined in Spider-Man 3, but the basis of it in Spider-Man 1 and 2, I actually think are great.
At least in Spider-Man 3, he has a personality though, unlike Storm. Like he actually,
it may be goofy and over the top and so James Franco like, but at least that's something for you to latch onto, whether it's positive or negative.
Yep. Yeah.
I actually just like rewatched all of the Sam Raimi films in one go, like yesterday as well. So that's fresh in my mind.
Should we move on from Storm because there's nothing to say?
No, there's nothing else to say really.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there is that one bit where like she's like getting a bit I think it's in this film. I think at the start when she's like getting a bit anxious, so like it starts raining, and then I think Professor X tells her to like calm down, and then it becomes sunny again. Like that's cool, I suppose.
Yeah, but I don't know why she's feeling anxious. I don't know. I might miss something, but I don't know. Like, and her acting in the Professor X memorial, like funeral, it's pretty good, but that's just down to the performance because the actress is at least good. So
Yeah. Shall we move on to Magneto?
yep.
So, I love Magneto. I think he's great. Especially, like, in this film, every scene that Ian McKellen's in, he steals it. Has some really, really awesome moments, like little tidbits.
Mm.
But ultimately, at the end, it kind of, again, it's a bit blunted by the battle.
Yeah.
However, I do think, like, I think he, in terms of, like, his performance and, like, the very small moments, I feel like he kind of steals the film a bit, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. There's the scene, like, when Mystique's powers get taken away and he just completely drops her, like, just walks away, and he's like, such a shame. She
Mm-hmm.
was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows like his sort of like mindset towards
Yeah.
humans. Even if they were a mutant, once they become human, he just drops all interest at all, or even care for like that person, which is I think is quite interesting, and I think he pulls it off very well. I would say. So
Yeah. He's like such a great character, but he's in an average story.
yeah,
It's frustrating. Ah,
yeah.
because
It just
Magneto's
feels like
fucking
that
great.
he. It just feels. I feel like they'd. I think because in the first two films I found him very entertaining, and he is entertaining in this film. But I felt like in the first two films you actually saw what kind of like story he was going for. In this, it feels like he's I don't know. It just feels so odd. I think
Yeah,
that some decisions they did with him are very questionable.
he definitely felt like it's just like, well, now we've got to assemble a team. That's all he was. He
Mm-hmm.
was just a captain.
Mm-hmm.
I do love when he disassembles the Brooklyn. Is it the Brooklyn Bridge? Or
It's one of the bridges in
it's one of the
yeah.
New York bridges. I love that scene when he disassembles the bridge and then like drops it onto I think it's Liberty Island. I'm not
Mm, oh
American,
no,
so I
it's oh no, it's like Alcatraz. That's
all
where
right.
because
So
that's where they I don't know
funnily enough,
wherever the bridge yeah.
I'm wearing an Alcatraz shirt right now. Coincidentally, I wore that before watching the film. That's absolutely coincidence. I didn't even plan
That's
that.
very funny. Yeah, I'd the fact they made a base for a cure for mutants on Alcatraz is it's a choice. It's a choice. That's all I'll say on that.
Yeah. But I do love how he like just dropped the bridge on it. That was cool. But then like the film just sort of happened, and then the bridge gets rebuilt.
Mm.
Although I do like at the very end when like he moves the chess piece with his hand.
Hmm.
That's like a nice little tease.
Yeah, it's a nice tease, but it feels like then what's the point of him getting injected? Does
Yeah.
it hinder his powers a little bit? Like I don't know. So I don't really see the point of him getting injected in the first place, other than him getting away and not causing any problems. I don't know. I find it quite an odd choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Blunted again.
It kind of just made it feel quite pointless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like this is an X-Men film, so you got to have Magneto in it, and that's what they did.
Hmm.
He was there because it was like, well, if you don't have him, then people won't. Some people might not want to watch it because he's one of the best parts. So we got to have him in
Yeah,
it, but they didn't really do much with him.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It's just a shame.
there is one line from the film I remember that I really really loved. It was when Pyro said to him that like he was like, oh, I would have killed Professor X for you, and then like he turns to him and says like, the fact that Professor X had to die so that we can live is the biggest tragedy. Like, it
Yeah,
just shows how much respect he has for Professor X, despite what they've been through. And that, to me, is one of the biggest things that makes him morally grey. And I find that really
hmm
interesting. Unfortunately, It's all you fucking get is like one moment. If that was the whole film, that would be awesome. But, you know, like I said, with Magneto, it's the small moments that I really enjoy him. Like that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they didn't utilize him to his full potential.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
Like, you've literally got like a gold mine of a character and you just don't use them. Like, what's the point of having a minute if that's all you're gonna do? Bloody waste. Okay, so let's go for Jean Grey, aka Phoenix, who I suppose is the main villain of the film. I suppose.
It's weird. She's like the side villain, but then she becomes the full-fledged villain. It's very odd. And I don't know. I just felt that I knew that this was gonna happen. I knew that she would become the villain of the story. That's one of the few things I did know about the X-Men franchise. And I feel that it is, to me, it's quite uninteresting. I found it at times when it feels like it should have been the main focus. It feels like it's on the side, and then it becomes, like we said, she's like the side villain, and then she becomes the full-fledged villain.
There's like this whole thing of the mutants being cured.
Yeah.
But then Jean Grey comes back, and it's kind of messy because there's two plots going on at the same time, and they don't really connect.
Yeah.
And her story is not particularly, you know, groundbreaking. It's just sort of like she becomes this unstoppable force. She kills a few people, and then Logan stops her, and then that's it.
Yeah. And I feel like that they could have done something so much better with her. I feel like I don't know what they could have done, but I feel like that this was probably one of the odder choices that they made. I think.
Yeah. Like I think they may have gone for the whole thing of if we make her kill Scott and Professor X, then that shows like how much power she has. But after you've seen the film, like, what do you get out of that? Like,
the deaths are pointless to me.
Yeah.
Not in terms of they're obviously those characters are now dead, so it's like obviously that's a consequence, and it does affect the characters and the franchise going forward. But I feel like to benefit the story itself within this film, those deaths are pointless.
Yeah, they feel like they're only done to just make her powerful, but they don't really go anywhere.
Like, I generally did not like Scott's death because it just confirmed that he is the most, I would say, out of everybody, the character that could have been really good but is thrown to the side in every story, in every film so far.
Yeah, and also, like, when you get to the end of the film, it feels like you've gone back to square one because the only result that comes out of Jean Grey being in this film is Logan, like, being sad, but that we already got that in X-Men 2, so what was the point?
Yeah. It does seem kind of pointless because we already got that emotional weight, which even then it wasn't like we said, it wasn't earned in the X-Men 2. So they're now redoing it. It's like they're trying, I don't know. I just didn't like it, and I didn't like Jean as the Phoenix because I feel like the effects on her as well would, I guess in a way they were meant to be quite what would be the word? Like horrific, but I don't like the effects on her face when she becomes Phoenix.
Yeah. Also, is it explained how and why her hair grows out? How long does this take? Like, how long does this take place after X-Men 2?
I could not tell you.
I don't know.
So I don't know.
Minor thing, but it's like I don't get like how. And I also like, wouldn't you think that like at the end of X-Men 2, like she would know that if she survived that might happen. So like she would, because she was obviously intending to have herself die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, wouldn't she make sure that would happen before her powers came out, or
I
is
don't know.
or could she not control that at all?
I guess in a way she couldn't, because in this film you only get two bits where her side sort of comes out, and she's like, "Kill me, like end it." She wants to die, because then in that case she can't control it like at all.
Mm.
There's only moments where she breaks free, but she doesn't. She can't do much else.
Yeah, I think it would have been better if she hadn't died in X-Men 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then her death came in this film, because then we would have gotten a full development, and then also her death wouldn't be blunted like it is.
No. Like if they kept her alive, but something happened to her in X-Men 2, like something happened to her like mentally, and she's put in like either a coma or in stasis in the end of X-Men 2, and that transitions into this one with in her mind her suppressed side is sort of taken over because she's dormant. That could have been a better way to do it.
And also I reckon if they'd done what they did in X-Men 2 with the self-sacrifice, if they'd done that in this film, it would have been better. Like have the exact same thing with like the same scene with Wolverine and Scott, but have it at the end of X-Men 3, and not have it just be, because when I saw the scene when Wolverine killed her, I was reminded of Game of Thrones when Jon Snow kills Daenerys. I'm like, this is just the same thing. It's just like silly.
But it does, because at no point does it bring you up to the highest of highs, then goes to lowest of lows, so you're not like angry. You're just sort of like, all right.
I suppose that's true. I suppose, but then again, the Jon Snow Daenerys romance was never good anyway. So
yeah.
But whatever. Yeah. They've messed up her story.
I'd say so.
Yeah, and they did the same with Cyclops. Okay, Scott Summers.
Oh, 100%. They completely butchered his character
It's the
by
worst.
killing him off.
It's probably the worst thing in this film is what they did with his character.
I would say throughout just the whole franchise. I think that they generally like completely butchered the potential of his character. Like X-Men 1 and 2, there's something of a resemblance of a character that they could eventually go to in this film, and especially after Jean's death, they could have had an emotional could be like incredibly depressed. He basically gives up on his superhero morals basically and can't be bothered to be a superhero anymore. Obviously, and if they did go with just Jean dying and coming back, if they had Cyclops be out for the whole film, him two sides of like, I want to save Jean, but I don't know if I can, or something like that. Make him an actual character, make him feel like, in a sense, relatable in a way. Like we relate to him and like what the way he's feeling. But instead they kill him off in the only two scenes he has. So he only gets like about 2 minutes of screen time in total, I would say, or even a little bit longer than that. But then that's it. He dies at basically the 25-minute mark, and it's just makes you feel like, well, what was the point of this character being here? Like you didn't really do anything with him at all.
Yep. There's not much more you can say than that because he's barely in it.
It's a real shame because I really do like the actor as well. Because obviously I've seen Westworld season 1 and he's great in that.
Yeah, I loved the scene where he takes his glasses off. Like that is great, but then he dies. And
it's just a cool moment, but there's no emotion behind it because there was no development between Jean or Scott at all.
nothing in this film feels like it has a lasting impact. It's all just moments.
It's all cool moments, but the previous two films don't develop on the relationships well enough to make you feel invested enough.
Yeah. Probably moving on to the next character because I don't have anything else to say really. They fucked it. Then we had Rogue, who seems to have like less and less screen time every film. Interestingly.
Yeah, but I feel like she's gone from when in X-Men 1 where she had a lot of screen time but it wasn't a great performance, and then in X-Men 2 when she got less screen time but I thought it was actually a really good performance. In this film it's less screen time and it's a bad performance. She's so mixed for me because I really liked her in X-Men 2 but I don't like her in 1 or 3.
Yeah.
And I get her story, and it does make sense because of like the way they established her character in X-Men 1 especially. So what she does makes sense, but it feels like it's such a side plot. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Like side plots can be good, but this one just feels that it's such a side plot. Why do I care? That kind of like side plot.
Yeah, it's like it has less screen time than Canto Bight does in The Last Jedi. Like that's how irrelevant it is to the overall story. It's so just like, okay, so she's like, I can't have sex with my boyfriend because I'm mutated.
Also, I hated that line in the beginning that she says to him, "Is like, you're a guy, you only have one thing on your mind." I'm like, I mean, that's incredibly sexist. Like that literally is sexist, but because she's a woman and she's saying it to a guy, it's totally fine.
Yeah,
like fuck off.
Yeah, I mean that you could make the argument that she's saying that because she's frustrated, but like, yeah, it is kind of shitty.
It's still sexist though.
Yeah,
like from his actions in these films, he's actually a really cool guy. He's actually a nice person, so I doubt he would even think like that.
To me, it comes across more just like he yearns for intimacy, and the ice skating scene shows that he's not like a pervert. Like he just wants intimacy with someone, and obviously, yeah, he is like flirting with someone else, but it's not what she thinks it is. It's more just like he wants to get close to her, but obviously she can't. But then it's weird because then at the end of the film, she obviously gets all her powers taken away. Well, not powers, but like a mutation taken away.
Yeah.
But then what did he's like, what did Iceman say? He's like, this isn't what I wanted. I'm like, isn't this exactly what you wanted?
No, because I feel like that Iceman wanted her to be who she is, like embrace it, and she is like, no, this is what I wanted. She wanted to feel normal and to be able to have a life, which is fine. I think when it comes to mutants, they are allowed the choice.
Yeah.
It's just their perspective on it are different.
That's true. That is true. I do think, I do. And also that does, in a way, demonstrate the sort of the political moral of the film is like the, how there was a war between we should not have our powers taken away from us. And then the other side says, oh, you are a danger to us. Therefore, you need to have your powers taken away. Whereas in this situation, it's demonstrating like they should have a choice whether or not they want to be mutated.
Yeah, it feels so weird because I feel like that in a surprising way, like Iceman is actually probably like, while he hasn't got a full-fledged character, there were at least moments where you sort of related to him and he's a likable character. So like when he's quote unquote flirting with Ellen Page's character, I don't feel like he's doing it on purpose. So when Rogue looks out on it, I'm like, oh, come on. Why would you think he would purposely like flirt with someone within the manner where anybody could like watch them, you know? It's very odd. It's that classic like
this is very different
the context.
This is very different. Like, this is not the same as Spider-Man 3 when Peter Parker kisses Gwen Stacy. It's not the same as that.
It's not.
Because that was genuinely like, what the fuck are you doing,
That
Spider-Man?
January was a like terrible decision to make in story and also as writing. It was a bad decision because it doesn't make sense. So like I don't know. It feels weird because like Rogue after X-Men 2 sort of felt like that she was just there after it, you know? I didn't feel like they could do much else with her. But I guess when they do like taking powers away, it was like, oh, I mean that could be interesting, and that makes sense for Rogue because of like how she feels like in both, especially the first one, especially when we are introduced to her. So that makes sense. It just feels like it's sort of odd. It's like, is what she's doing the right thing? Does Iceman like think of her differently now, or like
We don't know. It's just blunted.
It's very odd. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I have a feeling that they're not gonna like even reference it again. I feel like I have a feeling that because it's like this is now the completed trilogy of 3 films, that they're not gonna do anything else with it.
Yeah, it just feels like they had all the tent poles of what they wanted to do in this film, but they did the bare minimum with it. They didn't flesh out anything. It was so blunted.
Yeah, it was a very, again, like much like everything else in this film, it was a disappointing ending for another set of characters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like you said, Iceman is likable, and there's so much you could do with that character, but they just don't.
No. Her scenes are like, oh, there's a cure. I'm gonna go get the cure now. I'm cured now. Like those are the real scenes she actually had.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It feels like he got way more in X-Men 2, because obviously that was when he told his parents that he was a mutant, and that was actually quite good development for him. But then in this film, he got the sort of the points of what they should have done, but they didn't really flesh it out because he was just very low on the totem pole of, oh, these are the things we needed to have happen in this film.
Yeah.
It's a shame, really. Just thinking what should we do next. I suppose we should go for Hank McCoy, aka Beast, played by Kelsey Grammer, who is more known as Fraser from Cheers and also Frasier. Do you know that's the same actor?
Is he the guy who plays Dexter? Or
no, the guy who plays Beast.
I when you said Fraser, I thought I was thinking of Dexter for some reason. I don't know why, but is that the same actor? Oh,
yeah, no, Fraser from Cheers and Frasier.
Oh, well, yeah, oh, yeah, okay. No, I had no idea that was him.
Yeah, he's just a lot older, so.
But no, I liked Beast actually. I was wondering when he was actually going to get finally introduced, because I didn't realize it was this late into the X-Men trilogy that he was introduced. So, but yeah, as a character, I think he was one of the more likable characters that you could like understand his sort of morals in a sense. So I would say he's one of the more likable characters.
Like, again, similar to the Iceman thing, I like him, but his screen time is so limited. I just wanted more. I'm like, oh, why do they have to cram so many things into a 90-minute film and they don't do anything with it? It's just frustrating. It's like, more, please. Because Kelsey Grammer is great.
Yeah, he's really good. But yeah, they don't really do much else with him other than the sort of political side of it.
Yeah, Yeah, it's the main thing we get from him. Um, but like, yeah, he was very likable actually. And I like his sort of thing with Wolverine, like the sort of the bickering.
Yeah, because they're quite similar, like entities in terms of like they're both like animalistic. I don't even know what the word would be, but like
Yeah.
they're sort of like they're like animal-like mutation creatures kind of things.
Mm.
So that they have a lot of like banter between each other because of that. So it's very funny and interesting, I would say.
Yeah.
And I do like Beast's design. I think his design is good.
Yeah. Yeah, he's almost like a sort of Professor Hulk like character where he's like a big beast, but he's got quite a big brain. Like he's quite smart, you know.
Yeah.
But he's more of like a politician rather than a scientist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, why does every good character in this series not get enough?
And all the ones that I don't really care about do.
Yeah. Um. oh. Then of course we have Mystique, who is, as we've said in the other films, is a really cool character, and she was great in X-Men 2, especially. Um,
Hmm.
and I do like that scene. Obviously, mentioned when Magneto basically ditches her because she loses her powers. I do like that because it shows the fact that without her powers, like sees nothing in her. It really shows how he used her, which is a really messed up thing. But at the same time, like I kind of feel like we're missing out because Mystique is a fantastic character.
Mm.
It's just, you know, I don't know why they had to kill off so many of them. It just felt unnecessary.
Yeah. Although I don't see the point of her losing her powers.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's like a sort of there's something satisfying about seeing her in an actual human form, but like
Yeah.
again, that's a moment, and it doesn't
Yeah.
have a lasting impact.
Like, I found it quite redundant, really. It
Yeah,
doesn't. Her turning into a human doesn't serve the plot in any way, other than I think she handed stuff into the government. But hmm,
yeah. But there's that really messed up scene when she's being locked up, and so she like turns into a child.
yeah, turns to yeah, exactly. It's very, very like
It's quite creepy.
mm, yeah, it is because and it's very much what she's been doing for like the entire like trilogy.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like the empty child when that kid's saying, "Please let me in."
Yeah,
It was quite creepy. I was
yeah.
just thinking though, when she was tied up, like how was she tied up again? Was it like with cuffs or was it with like
It was like handcuffs attached to the ceiling of the van.
right? I was just thinking because like if she turned into a child, would it like her wrists get smaller?
That's actually true. That's actually no, yeah, that would make sense. She can just turn into a baby, couldn't she?
We just get her arms out.
That's a pretty big plot hole. Like she like changes sizes when she changes. Like her arms don't stay the same.
Exactly. Like I'm imagine like a small girl with like massive arms.
Or the only way you could explain that is that if the handcuffs automatically adjust to when she changes, but they don't establish that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a real shame because like, again, it's another character that, at least with her, she got some development within the last two films, but then she's again pushed aside and turned to a human for no real reason.
I wanted to see like another scene with her and Wolverine, like because that was awesome when it
Yeah.
happened. Those are like the best scenes from the first two films.
Mm, I agree.
Yeah. Ugh. See, I'm like, I know we said at the start that we don't really hate this film, but like when I start thinking about it, there's so many things that they.
It's just more disappointing.
Yeah, it's not what they did, it's what they didn't do.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong
And
with
I
this
guess
film.
in a way you could say that's quite subjective, but
Mm,
there was a very clear line of what they should have done, and they don't do it. I
yeah,
think.
like I feel like if you've got if you're the kind of person that doesn't have, I don't mean this in like an insulting way, but if you're the kind of person that doesn't have much of an imagination, I can imagine you not having a problem with this film because what it presents to you, it does decisively. But
Mm,
if you're the kind of person that thinks about these things and thinks about what you could do with a film, this is one of those films where it's like there's so much potential, and like most of the characters are so short charged, they don't really
yeah,
get much.
I agree. Look, I think that I think decisions they made in the film were both like either pointless or were the wrong decision to go.
Yeah. I know that Avi Arad was working on this one because I saw him in the credits. I think this may be
Yeah,
a case of him overstuffing it, like just too many characters.
yeah, yeah. But like it never really feels like there's a villain until the very end.
Mm. Um, anything else we want to say about Mystique?
A shame because she's an interesting character that they could have done more of, but they didn't. They've
I really
taken the
like
power
the
away.
like. I really like the actress who plays her,
Mm-hmm.
but she's just barely used.
Pretty much. And I feel like her design has gotten better and better throughout the films. Because I think when you compare that to X-Men 1, X-Men 1 looks kind of, I would say, dodgy and kind of like rough around the edges. But then you look at the design now, it actually is quite a convincing look and quite naturalistic.
Mm. There's like a very, isn't there like a very, very small scene when after she turns into a human that she appears in, but it's like on a screen or something?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned. I think she goes to the government for a reason. I can't remember
Yeah,
why specifically.
she gets so badly phased out of this film.
Yeah. Look, she disappears after the 40-minute mark and then comes back at the end in a little glimpse, and that's it. So that's basically the end of her character in the X-Men trilogy, and it's very disappointing.
Yeah. Now you already mentioned Pyro, and yes, you have a point there. Pyro is almost completely different to how he was in X-Men 2 for absolutely no reason. What was that?
He goes from God, it's so like he's such a small character, right? And that's fine. It isn't overbearing on the plot, but if you just think about his story, his arc makes no sense because the it goes from A to Z without any middle part of it. There's
Mm,
not a transition. It's just like at the end of X-Men 2, where he goes off with Magneto, you still feel like even just before that he was a decent person, like he wanted to help. And then in X-Men 3, he's like, I would have killed Professor X, but why? Why would you
he's
shoot
just like
him?
suddenly a
What did he do?
massive asshole.
He's a mass. He's like he turns into a murderer basically, in for no reason. Like I said, if they, because what he did to the police in X-Men 2, if they had been like, "What are you doing? We shouldn't have done that. That's ridiculous. We're not them. We're good people." And he disagrees with that. At least there, it would have made more sense. And obviously, Magneto affecting his mind and stuff. But it feels like a complete cut to a completely different character with different morals for no reason.
Mm.
Like his thing with Iceman, I actually did like, but I wish they did a confrontation where Iceman is trying to bring out the good in him again.
There
Because
was some kind of disconnect between them because in X-Men 2 they felt like characters that were connected. Like,
they felt like really good friends, and then all of a sudden
yeah,
this they are enemies, and it's kind of ridiculous.
it's very awkward because they feel so different now, but not in a good
Yeah,
way. It's not like, you know, um, it's not like because obviously they have like the whole classic fucking let's blast our energy at each other in the final battle, and it clashes like that in the middle, like that you see in every Hollywood film. Um,
mm.
they obviously have that. And when I saw that, I was thinking like, when you think like other examples where it happens, like for example, like Harry Potter and Voldemort, they have that with like their wands. The characters feel very connected to each other when they clash, whereas with like Iceman and Pyro in this film, they just don't feel connected at all. Even
No.
though they have opposite energies, the characters don't connect anymore. It's
They
just
don't blend.
yeah, it's very forced when they do that. And they
Like
make them.
he just like all of a sudden just like blows up one of the cure facilities.
Yeah.
So he turns into a terrorist in one film. It's very stupid. There's
least-
no
At
there's
least it
no
wasn't.
transitional writing
At, le-
arc for him.
at least it wasn't after they surrendered.
Mm.
Could have been worse. But we'll have to wait. You know, we won't get that writing until the next film. Because, you know. Anyway. But yeah, Pyro was... They messed it. I like the bit where Iceman headbutts him is funny, but like that's the end of his character.
Like and suddenly like Iceman turned it into like he can now turn into a full Iceman. Like he's completely covered in ice. That feel like it kind of came out of nowhere.
Yep.
If they again, it feels like that was more of a moment where he's like he finally has tapped into his full potential.
Yeah, see now that is like the kind of thing that should have been like, you know, with Captain America when he wields the hammer in Endgame. Like that's got so much setup and character, and like there's so many bits of dialogue about like, are you worthy? Are you worthy? And then when he finally wields it, it's this moment of, it's just this very powerful scene when he finally, you know, fulfills his destiny of sorts.
Yeah.
With Iceman, it's like it just sort of happens. And
yeah, where was the arc of him feeling like he hasn't tapped into his potential yet? He feels like he could do more. Feels like he could like be better in a sense.
yeah,
But no, it wasn't there.
yeah, I think this really illustrates the issues that Fox had of doing like a cinematic universe. Because I think it really shows like how important it was for Marvel to finally get it right with the Avengers. Because it feels like every other person that tried to do it before then just fucked it up badly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until they finally did it with the MCU where it actually worked. And it didn't feel like every character didn't get enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we had Juggernaut. Who
Jesus Christ.
who was, you know, like there's that scene where he runs through the walls, and it's funny because it's just like how that girl goes through walls. He runs through walls, like that was funny, but
yeah.
apart from that, what can you really say?
It's. I'm trying to remember, like. Yeah. So the character that played him, the actor, was the Vinnie Jones, who is a British actor, but was also a very famous footballer. And as a football fan myself, I obviously know who he is. And it's very funny, but also so bad what he does in this film.
Vinnie Jones' humor does not fit an X-Men film.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch! Like, that was so poorly delivered, it's not even funny. Like, it's, like, so over the top. Like, he doesn't do much, and that's fine. It's okay that he's just there. But when you get lines like that, where he's just like, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch! And it's just like, maybe you should just be silent. And naturally, you would have been really cool.
He feels like he's in like the same category as like Rhino in Amazing Spider-Man 2, where it's just really silly.
Oh God, yeah. What an odd like casting choice. Like probably Vince Jones could probably be better in like other films, like more action, like serious stuff. But when
Yeah.
he does something like this, which is purely a action / comedy character, it's like, come on.
Yeah,
Of all the people,
I know that this film came 10 years before Civil War, but someone like on who doesn't really understand films might look at Civil War and be like, "Oh, this is popular because it gets a whole bunch of superheroes together and has them fight." And then they would make a film like this. But that's not how it works. Because the difference between this and Civil War is Civil War works because all the characters that are in the fight are actually really well developed. Whereas with this,
even just within that film, let alone just the universe
like Black
itself,
Panther,
like in that,
Black
yeah,
Panther and
exactly.
Spider-Man and all that.
Yeah.
Whereas
Nothing is wasted.
Whereas in this film, you get characters like Juggernaut, which are just nothing. Just...
If he was just silent and was just there for action set pieces, that would have been great.
I would have much rather if he just wasn't in it and they had Mystique in the fight instead.
That's true as well.
Because that's a character.
If they're gonna have him, if you're gonna just have him in the film, make him just be silent and just make him kick ass. That's all you need to do. You don't need him to have lines at all. He can just be silent.
You don't need it to be Vinnie Jones.
No, exactly. It's just like it's so incredibly forced. Like many people point to that clip to when they think this film is like terrible, when like this is why it's terrible, and that is so true. It's like it's so different to everything else that's happening in the film. It comes out of nowhere.
It's quite a serious political threat, and you got this cheesy, like cartoonish. I can run through walls.
Yeah,
I'm a fucking soccer coach.
I'm the wrong person to be playing hide and seek with. Yeah, God, what a terrible character.
Yeah. Okay, Professor X. So, I love Patrick Stewart's performance, and I love everything he's in the film, but obviously he dies quite early.
And really stupidly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's a very stupid scene. His face is so goofy, and it's like, it's a very odd scene and a very weird place to kill him off. I don't know. I guess you've got sort of the impact of like this villain is quite dangerous, and that's fine, but it serves more of a purpose than Scott's death, at least. But I still don't like it.
The thing is, like, his dying words are, "Don't let the power like overtake you," but that doesn't lead to anything in the film. It's just pretentious shit. Like, it's just him being like, "I am old and wise. I am dying. Please listen to my words," and it doesn't mean anything. It's just, it's just a moment in the film. People are like, "Oh no, one of my favorite characters is now dead."
Yeah. Well, we know he isn't dead for long, I guess.
Well, did you see the post-credit scene?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like, he's already like back in. They hint at like this guy who hasn't got a conscience, so I'm assuming that's what happened. So we'll have to see though.
But yeah. I don't know what else to say. He's really underutilized in X-Men 2 and 3. Like, he's used quite a lot in the first film, which is great. But in the second one, in most of the time, he's either like he's not really conscious or he's like being mind controlled, and then in the third one, he dies. So, yeah,
pretty much
another great character that's not used to his full potential, really.
No, I wouldn't say so. Yeah.
But Patrick Stewart's always great, though. Like, his performance is fantastic. But yeah, the fact that he's listed below Juggernaut on Wikipedia really says something, like, to his significance. Then we had Shadowcat.
I don't remember who that is.
Hang on.
Was that one of the three like side character henchmen's?
A mutant with the ability to phase through matter and walk through solid objects. Her
Oh,
clarification.
Ellen Page's character. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, I just didn't know what her name was. So yeah.
She's really likable, but
I had no idea Ellen Page was in any of these films. So
yeah, I'm
but
just thinking like, was Shadowcat a different actress in the first few, like in the first
I
one?
don't even remember her at all.
Well,
Well, she
I
might
remember
have been. She might have
she
been because
was.
there's a girl that walks through a wall, isn't there? In the first one.
I'm pretty sure it's the same character, but she's extremely minor. Like she's not
Yeah.
really a character at all.
She's just sort of there and is sad when Professor X dies, and that's it.
Yeah. Like she's likable.
She's in the simulation at the beginning of the film that makes you think that she was actually going to be more pitiful, or at least more of a presence. But no, not really.
Mm.
I mean, she saves the kid, but that's kind of it.
Yeah. I suppose there's the ice skating scene.
Yeah, that's fine, but I don't really see why it's needed because they didn't really need it.
You gotta make Rogue jealous.
I mean, yeah, but they already established that she already wanted to really kind of take it, so that scene is pointless because we know anyway it would have been convincing enough if she just went to take it because from X-Men 1, so it's kind of pointless.
It felt very her and Iceman felt very out of nowhere as well. Like, it was so shoehorned into the film.
Oh, I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, but thankfully she's not like insufferable.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like Rose Tico, where it's like this character that's shoehorned in to divert a romance story, and she's just completely and utterly hateable. Like Shadowcat's fine, but you know, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, she's just fine. She's not inherently bad. Doesn't do anything bad. It's just, yeah.
Then we have Angel, aka Warren Worthington III. So like he's one of the like the biggest things that people remember from this film because he's got like the wings. But
yeah,
again, like he's barely in it.
I don't know what his character is other than he can fly, and his father kind of hates that he's a mutant.
Yeah.
He has it's a total of like 3 minutes screen time, and he's in random. He just randomly appears, almost like, oh hey, yeah, you're in this film. I totally forgot.
Yeah, there's this there's an epic movie. I've talked about this before. The movie that Adam absolutely despises. It's like a spoof of every film that came out around the mid 2000s. One of the one of the main plots at the beginning of the film is like X-Men. And so the guy who's supposed to be Peter from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe has those wings, but like they're not angel wings; they're chicken wings.
Oh god!
And like it's supposed to be like he's like pathetic, and then like he wants to like face up to Wolverine, but then his like wings are shit. And then he tries to walk away, and Magneto pulls like a locker, like a bag locker door into his face, and then like the fucking chocolate bar falls on him and he gets the golden ticket to go to Willy Wonka's factory. It's fucking such a weird film. Oh dear. But yeah, that's again, that's what I remember most about some of it. The thing is, like, watching these films again, I was like thinking, like, I want to get my memory of Epic Movie out and like think of these as actual characters, but they're so insignificant to these films that I'm now thinking more significance of the Epic Movie spoof of them. So yeah. Anyway. But yeah, like, what would you rather have? Would you rather have like a like a 3-minute screen time of this, or like a shit joke version of it?
I'd rather just take it out. Like I don't see the point of it. It doesn't affect the outcome. It doesn't affect like the characters. He's literally a character that can be taken out of the film and nothing would change.
Yeah. Although there's one thing I can say about Epic Movie. It's not good, but there's one thing I can say is that when they're on the battlefield, and they're about to fight the white bitch's army, for your, if you don't know, that's the White Witch, but she's called the White Bitch.
Right.
And she's played by the MILF from American Pie for some reason. When Peter sees the armor, he runs away and his chicken wings come out. But then when his like siblings cheer him on, he rips the wings off, so he's like tough.
Oh wow.
So like when I saw at the start of the film, when I saw Angel like taking his wings out of his back, I thought of that scene. Oh dear. God. If Adam ever watches these reviews, he's gonna get like triggered because he hates that film so much.
Yeah, I imagine.
And other people do. It's like considered to be like a 1-star film.
I mean, it's like in a sense, it's still a spoof film, so you're not meant to take it seriously. So if you like mindless fun, like with no substance, then cool. Like that's fine for you.
Yeah.
You're not meant to think it's meant to be. It's not trying to be like a great film. It's just trying to be entertaining for shits and giggles and nothing else.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it does have some horrible scenes in it. I will admit that.
But when it comes to stuff that actually impact the overall media, that's when it's rightfully criticized. When it destroys the lore of everything. Yeah.
Then we had Callisto. Callisto is a mutant with enhanced superhumanly acute senses who senses mutants and their powers.
That was the woman that could run fast, isn't it?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, there were three like henchmen. There was the one who was basically a porcupine with spikes. Yeah, the one that could run fast but could also sense other mutants for some reason. Like those powers don't really mix. And then you had the other one, and I can't remember what the powers of that person was.
I'm just gonna look up Callisto X-Men 3 because I can't even remember who this character is. Like, I gotta say, during the final battle, I was eating dinner, so I wasn't fully looking at the screen all the time.
Yeah, it's sort of.
Right, the one with like the weird. Oh no, hang on, that's Arclight. Shit. Hang on. I'm like looking like at pictures of her from the film. I still don't remember who that is. That's how forgettable she was.
I recognize the actress because she's in the show Heroes from season 2 and 3. I think that's where I recognize the actress from. But then that's it. I think the other guy, the guy who has a porcupine, he's in like some. He's in Force Awakens, I think. And I think he's in a lot of like J.J. Abrams stuff. I think.
Right.
I don't know.
So in terms of Callisto, I remember the tattoo on her face, but that's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember her look, and it's weird because she can run fast, but she can also sense other mutants. Like those powers don't mix. So.
But
I'm sure that's a comic book character and those are her powers, maybe. But even then, it's still stupid because those powers don't mix.
Yeah. But I don't really have anything else to say, so unless you want to say something.
No.
Then we had Warren Worthington II, who was the father of Angel. And he's played by an actor called Michael Murphy. And when I saw that name, the first thing I thought was, this is going to be an extremely weird, obscure bit of trivia. But the person who came second place in the 2004 New Zealand Idol was called Michael Murphy.
Flow. It's not the same person, I'm assuming.
No, of course not. Because, like, that guy was, like, I don't know, our age when he was on that. But I remember this was like 2004, so it was cool to spike up your hair and spray paint it red.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with the character.
No.
Yeah, and if anyone was interested, that is a very weird bit of trivia about that name. Warren Worthington II, daddy issues plot. Yeah, he doesn't like that his son is a mutant.
But I think the way they establish it is that he thinks that they're diseased. He doesn't hate them, but he thinks they need to be cured. So he's misunderstanding what it means.
It adds an overall theme to the whole political undertone of the trilogy, but it doesn't actually make his character that interesting because he's barely in the film.
Oh no. It's just like what he does is like, it's very odd.
Then we had Kavita Rayo, who is a scientist who works at Worthington Labs on the mutant cure. She's killed by Kid Omega. Do you even remember who this was?
No.
Probably doesn't even matter. Then we had the president. Is this the same president from the last film?
No, it's a different one. He's much older.
So maybe the second one ran away because of like that scene where the X-Men are like, "Oh, we are coming."
Yeah. When it comes to anything that comes in any media with the president, any film, they just pick someone random, even if it's the same franchise.
Yeah.
It's just like, we'll get someone a bit older and they'll be on male. So.
Yeah, they basically just they look like always look like a mix of like George Bush and Bill Clinton.
They have to look like sophisticated.
Like remember the president from The Sound of Drums?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They have to look like that.
Yeah.
And be like, seem very political in their tone.
The difference with that is that he was a perfect opposite to John Sims' master, to Harold Saxon. And when Harold Saxon was messing around with him, he's like, "You do realize that this is serious business, right?"
That Britain elected an ass? Yes.
I killed the president. Watch your world burn, Doctor. Anyway.
I'm taking control, Uncle Sam. Kill him.
Watch out for the gas. The what? The gas.
This gas. Great.
Oh, John Sim tangents are the best thing about this channel.
Yeah.
Then we had Trask, who was the head of Department of Homeland Security. He was barely in it, really.
Yeah.
That whole side story came out of nowhere, and there was just a whole bunch of characters on screen. Where I was like, I've never seen these characters before. I don't give a shit. And it reminded me, there's another side. I think there's a side plot in Amazing Spider-Man 1 that's the same. I think it's with the lizard and his boss or something. And where I was just like, what? Who's this character? Why do I care? Then we had Peter Rasputin, aka Colossus, who was a mutant to turn into organic steel. Yep, he was there. And then we had Multiple Man. I thought that guy's powers were cool, but again, he was only in a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
But you could do so much with. I love the line from Mystique when she says, "This guy robbed 7 banks at the same time." It was a perfect setup for his character, but then it just didn't go anywhere really. Apart from the final battle, there's one little scene. But so many great superhero concepts in this that are just not used to their full potential. Multiple Man could be used in a heist film, and it would be awesome.
Absolutely. Well, that's what they said that he did. They robbed 7 banks at the same time.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of other characters in there too, like Psylocke and Arclight and Kid Omega. There's a lot of characters, but they all just sort of blended into the background.
Yeah.
Are there any of them that you want to comment on?
No, not really. At this point, there's no other characters that I was that interested in.
Yeah. Okay. So the film's written by Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn. Interestingly, noticing that name, Zach Penn was the director of The Incredible Hulk 2008. Yeah. I believe these guys are different writers to the first two films.
Yep.
Yeah, because Simon Kinberg did Triple X State of the Union, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Jumper. Oh god, Jumper, that film with Hayden Christensen in it. He did the Sherlock Holmes film with Robert Downey Jr. And he did like the 2015 Fantastic Four. Yeah. Murder on the Orient Express. And a whole bunch of X-Men films, obviously. Yeah. Oh, and he also did some TV, like he did Star Wars Rebels, apparently. Yeah. So, yeah, not the best. Yeah, Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn. Again, it was like the writing was just so lackluster.
To be honest, I didn't really see much difference between the writing. I just think more characters were pushed to the side. I think that's just the biggest problem I have.
For me, it was what I would say is it was probably the structure was a lot more cohesive, but the actual content was far less developed. That's the main overall thing I would say, is that it felt way more generic and safe, like the way it was written. It didn't have like the messy stuff that the first two films had, but the first two films at least tried to have something interesting. Whereas this one was very held back. It was directed by Brett Ratner. But the reason why is because Bryan Singer left the project in favor of doing Superman Returns.
I mean, it's the choice of two evils. So
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Superman Returns since it came out in the cinemas, but basically everyone agrees that it was shit. Even
which is shame, because like Braden Ruth is actually a really funny actor. Because if anyone's watched the Arrowverse, he's actually really great in that.
Even I was talking about Epic Movie before. Even Epic Movie takes a shit on Superman Returns. Even though many people would argue Epic Movie is a much worse film, but whatever. But yeah. Yes, that's funny. Left X-Men to do Superman Returns. So then Brett Ratner was dropped in to do this one at the last minute. And it's very similar, I believe. I obviously haven't seen the film, but it's very similar to Justice League. How obviously not for the same reasons, but where the one director had dropped out and another one had to replace them. And I think that this film, whilst it certainly, I don't know, it doesn't look as shit as the first two in terms of like the way it looks, but I feel like that's only because of how technology has developed. Like they've got way more budget and way more like high quality stuff to use. So it certainly has a more polished look to it, but I wouldn't say the direction is anything particularly spectacular. I would say it works, but it's not particularly stylish.
No, I wouldn't say either.
It definitely feels more like this film overall felt like it was more blending in with Hollywood, and it was less.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Too accessible.
Yeah, I would. I would say that. I agree with that.
And yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like, there's hardly. I'm trying to remember if there's like a specific scene that I remember where like the direction was really good, but I can't remember it.
No, I can't really either. There were some decent shots, but like nothing like impressive, I would say.
Yeah, I suppose some of the choreography and like the just overall like carnage was quite good. Like with the scene when Professor X dies, like I like the look of like everything just move. I remember as a kid, like I always visually remember that scene where he dies because like everything gets messed up.
Yeah,
I suppose that's nice. And I do love like the way the bridge being lifted off and moved is very convincing. Like the CGI on that doesn't look fake at all. It looks very real.
No. Yeah. It looks pretty decent.
And Mystique CGI obviously looks great.
Oh yeah. Yes. I think that it's regularly that just looks one of the better things, I'd say.
But yeah, it's not really one of the thing. It's not something that's going to completely make the film great the way it looks. Yeah, but whatever. The score was done by John Powell, who I'm not sure if he did the second one or not. I'm just gonna check. No, he didn't.
It didn't sound recognizable, I think.
Yeah. But he did do. He did do some other famous films. He did Ants. He did Chicken Run. He did The Road to El Dorado. He did Shrek. He did, and Shrek is quite an iconic one, even though a lot of it is like production songs.
Yeah.
There are actually some like score sounds on that that are quite iconic. Agent Cody Banks, I completely forgot that existed. I only ever remember seeing that film because it has the kid from Malcolm in the Middle in it. The Bourne Supremacy, he did the score for that. He did the score for Robots, if you remember that film. That's a throwback. I always remember Robots for the scene when the guy pushes the dominoes over.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Will Smith movie. I think that's just called Robot. Or iRobot. That's what it's called.
No,
but yeah, I remember Robots. I remember that. Yeah.
No, yeah, the animated film Robots.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. God, that's a throwback. He also did the score for a lot of like the Ice Age sequels.
Oh.
He did the score for Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Did the score for Hancock. And How to Train Your Dragon.
That one's pretty good.
And Happy Feet 2. And did the score for Solo: A Star Wars Story. Interesting.
I mean,
I haven't seen that film, so
no, I haven't either. But I don't.
Which is insane considering how much of a Star Wars fan I am. I suppose. But I was just so like, no, fuck that. But I will watch it eventually, probably for this channel. Anyway, but yeah, John Powell's score for X-Men 3.
It was surfable.
Yeah, I suppose it worked. Didn't really stand out.
No, I can't remember any specific track, but I don't remember a track being so out of place. So
Yeah, he seems very like B level.
yeah,
Um, yeah, this film needed to be like epic, and one of the things that could have made it epic was like a iconic score. Like for
yeah,
example, like Alan Silvestri's score for the Avengers films is part of what makes it iconic.
yeah,
Like imagine that scene at the end of Endgame where without portals, like it just wouldn't be the same,
yeah.
would it?
It would. It'd be. Yeah,
Like yeah, this film needed more of that,
it did.
that sort of thing. Um, I don't know what else to say really. And
No.
is there anything else you want to say about the writing, direction, and music?
I think it was just all either surfaceable at best. I would say. I would say there was nothing that impressed me.
Yeah, I would say this is out of the three films, it's the most watchable, but that doesn't mean it's the best.
Yeah. I would say I will say that I think that I was glad that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like abysmal dialogue, abysmal like sort of structure and plot.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's one of the worst superhero films there are, but I don't think it's a good one. I don't think it's close to being good.
Hmm. It's just a very generic, disappointing mess, really. I think
Which
that's
could have been great. It could have been great, I think.
hmm.
It's just decisions they made were bad.
Yeah. Shall we move on to the trivia?
Yep.
Kelsey Grammer was so keen to play Beast that he agreed to do an audition. This was the first time Grammer had auditioned in over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in June 2009 interview, Bryan Singer admitted that he regretted declining to direct this movie in favor of Superman Returns,
I'd
confessing
imagine
that
so.
confessing that he realized his mistake before I was watching the third X-Men movie, during watching it, after watching it. Um, yeah, yeah. It definitely felt like if he was in it, like even though I don't like a lot of what Bryan Singer was doing with the first two, it does feel like that some of the heart was lost with this one.
Yeah, I would say so.
Nightcrawler was supposed to make a cameo appearance by Alan Cumming, who played him in the second one, but the cameo was so short, however, that the filmmakers felt the long and costly makeup process was not worthwhile, so he was cut from the film, which is a
Yeah,
shame.
yeah. Like if you're gonna have him in a bigger role than just a cameo, because that's a lot of work to do for
They could have
just
they could
a
have
small
made
part.
this trilogy into like 6 films and developed all the characters really well, and it
Mm.
would have and the Last Stand would have felt absolutely brilliant by the end of it because it would have actually been good.
Yeah, exactly. If they had like for example, if Jean had died in two, but they had a couple more films in between that to develop people like Cyclops and Storm, and the finale be Jean returning, then that would have been so much better.
Yeah, I reckon X-Men could have worked really well as a TV series. I think I mentioned this in other reviews.
Yeah, but
Um,
obviously they were gonna they even still made more X-Men films, so they had no really excuse for not having films in between this massive story. I think.
mm. I think by the time they realized it was too late, and they had to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
continue and do what they wanted to do, but like just completely distance themselves from the issues of this trilogy, and
Yeah.
inevitably create different issues. But we'll get to that. Um, so Rebecca Romijn and James Marsden's roles were reduced substantially when this movie was rushed into production, and the two cast members had prior scheduling conflicts. Wow. So the reason why Cyclops and Mystique were ruined is because of the rushed production and the scheduling.
Oh, let's just kill him off. We don't have time.
Yeah. Budgeted at $210 million. This was at the time the most expensive movie ever made. That's insane.
This was the most
expensive
film ever made.
So this film came after Revenge of the Sith, and it was more expensive than that. That's insane.
And it was like, an incredibly rushed production.
Because Revenge of the Sith has, you know how much fucking CGI that film has, and how many locations and how long that film is.
There's probably some sort of CGI in every single shot of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and the cast, how many famous actors are in it, and how long the film is, and how many locations there are, and how long it took to make.
This was short.
The fact that X-Men 3 was more expensive than Revenge of the Sith. Are you serious?
And that's the culmination of the second saga in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that is ridiculous.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have expected this to be that much bigger than Goblet of Fire, which came out a year before this. But this was bigger than anything that came before this. Any film. That's ridiculous.
And they only managed to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, that means that this film was more expensive than Batman Begins and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films.
Mm-hmm.
Just what the hell? How? But that's that's the biggest surprise for me, is the fact that it's even more than Revenge of the Sith. I can't believe that. That's insane. I'm actually gonna look that up now. What was the budget for Revenge of the Sith?
It could have been that much less.
Oh, it was half.
It was half.
It was half. Revenge of the Sith was 113 million. This was 210 million.
Wow, they only managed to... Revenge of the Sith looks so much better than this film.
Yeah. So we're praising the Star Wars prequels over X-Men.
It looks better, and it has half the budget, and every shot is CGI. This only has half of it being CGI.
It's a film with
That's ridiculous.
That's a film with Samuel Jackson in it as well, and Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman, and
they both took the same amount of time to make. It both took them 3 years from the last film's release. Yeah,
and established Star Wars names like James Earl Jones and Peter Mayhew, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, people that are expensive because of Star Wars. And it's fucking Star Wars. It's the landscapes. Have you seen the pit at Utapau, Mustafar? The fact that X-Men 3 was double that is insane.
It all went into the feathers, then probably.
It all went into the bridge.
I wouldn't be surprised if it did, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, what a waste of money.
That's an incredibly amount of waste of money.
Yeah. Oh, now this is interesting. Halle Berry had initially decided not to reprise her role as Storm for this film, citing lack of character development in the previous 2 installments and a tense relationship with Bryan Singer. However, after Singer's departure and suffering a major box office flop with Catwoman, Berry agreed to return on the condition that her role be expanded. Consequently, in this movie, Storm replaces Cyclops and Xavier as the team leader of X-Men.
But she doesn't do anything. She's just there. Her arc has missing parts to it to actually make it feel complete. So that's stupid. Oh yeah, we'll give you more stuff to do. We'll give you more scenes and you'll talk more, but you won't have an actual fully arc.
I feel really bad for her because she's actually a really good actress.
Yeah.
But she got shafted by 3 X-Men films. She got shafted with Catwoman, and she got shafted with like one of the worst James Bond films as well. Like the one that killed it, and they had to reboot it with Daniel Craig. She was in the one before that. So poor woman is being messed around by Hollywood when she's actually quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. What a mess. Oh. Wait, what's going on? Is there someone outside?
No, it's just loads of people in the back.
Okay. Beast's famous line, "Oh, my stars and garters," is used in this movie, mostly due to executive producer Kevin Feige's insistence.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't "Oh, my stars" something from the MCU, or am I mistaking it?
I can't remember.
I recognize it from something. The whirlwind wire stunt scenes performed by Halle Berry made her so nauseated that she vomited in one scene, and the crew had to bring in buckets for her before shooting her fight scenes. Jesus. It's not as bad as in the first X-Men when Hugh Jackman's balls like got tugged by the harness. The Marvel introductory logo is composed entirely of X-Men images that pertain to the storylines in this movie.
I noticed that.
That was good. It's the Golden Gate Bridge. That's what it's called.
Ah, right, cool.
I knew it was one of those. So apparently, that scene where he moves the bridge was supposed to be earlier in the film, but then Brett Ratner changed it to the end, so it was a more dramatic climax. Apparently Gambit was supposed to be in this film, and Channing Tatum was supposed to play him, but then they cut it. The amount of characters that were supposed to be in this film are like smells of Aviarad.
Yeah.
The number tattooed on Magneto's arm is 214782. This identifies him as a survivor of the Auschwitz-Birkenau complex of the Nazi concentration camps, which is like a reference to the first scene from X-Men 1, which is like a brilliant thing, but it's just so not even mentioned at all in these films.
No.
But I remember when I saw that scene in the first X-Men, I was like, wow, I forgot. Like, I was like, oh, wow, maybe these films really are brilliant. I forgot about this. But then we got the rest of the film.
Yeah.
One thing that I really did like, though, was like when it was like 20 years earlier and they made Patrick Stewart look young.
I think Patrick Stewart looked good, but I think Ian McKellen looked really dodgy.
Yeah.
He did not look great.
Yeah, I think one of the things though is that Patrick Stewart never really ages.
No, he just looks the same.
So when they made him look young, I was like, oh, that's just Picard from Star Trek.
Yeah. Like Ian McKellen looked really weird. Like his teeth were way too white. Like he's like, I don't know. He just looks so off.
That's one thing that Captain Marvel has over this film, is that they made Samuel L. Jackson look young, and it looked good.
Oh, it looked fantastic. But then you've got scenes where Captain Marvel is falling and she looks like plastic. as opposed to a character being plastic.
Yeah, and when the cat eats the Tesseract, it's like this is the thing that harnesses Thanos' power, and it's eaten by a cat.
I don't get how people like fucking Captain Marvel. I really don't get it.
What a weird film.
It's the worst of the MCU.
Yeah. Like, this year has been such a mixed bag for the MCU.
It's been,
Like,
you got one of the best films in Marvel's history, and then you've got one of the
one of
worst.
the worst, and then you got a really like problematic Spider-Man film that also has some great moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, God, I'm so mixed on Far From Home, even
Yeah, exactly.
now.
It's like such a mixed bag, and then like Captain Marvel is absolute trash, and then Endgame is absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like if someone asked me like what we sum up the MCU in 2018, I'm like, oh, I don't know. It was, you know, it was, I don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
It was mixed. How do you feel about Jane Foster returning as female Thor?
If she, the thing is, right, I hate, because the biggest thing is, did you hear that they have now made like Valkyrie like, I don't know if she's bi or just fully gay. I don't know if you heard about that.
I think I already knew that like earlier.
They
I don't know.
announced, I think they just announced, it at Comic-Con, and it's like,
Yeah.
I hope they do it more for character reasons rather than just representation. Because then, like,
see, I heard that. I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere before that was announced, though. Like, I heard that there was supposed to be like something between her and Captain Marvel, and I was
no,
like,
oh
oh,
god, no, I saw a weird like shipping like drawing on Twitter, and I replied to it on my Twitter. I was like, these two have never interacted with each other. They're not related in any way. And besides, Valkyrie should go for a much better character.
yeah.
And I love how people's like, oh, you're upset because they're gay and representation is like, oh, is that? No, it's like if they do it for just representation reasons, then it's bad because they're thinking of that first. They're not good character writing.
It's
And
not
that's
like
what. That's
it's
why
not.
that's why
It's
people like Mauler and Ethan, they all talk about how like you got the SJW stuff, and like no, there's nothing wrong with strong female characters, but don't act as if there were never any strong female characters in history.
There are
There are, because
like
there are.
people think that when we criticize that we just don't like gay characters. That's absolutely not true.
Or women or anything like that.
If anyone out there, obviously lots of people on this channel that subscribe are Doctor Who fans.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Russell T Davies wrote Years and Years, which came out this year, was a TV series, and like Danny and Victor is an example of like a gay relationship that I think works so well.
Because they're characters.
They're actual characters. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, and I was fully on board with it and invested in it, and just like more than like a lot of on-screen relationships, regardless of the sexuality.
Yeah. And another big example, Captain Jack Harkness. He's a character first, but he's gay, so there is representation, but he's a character first. You should think about the characters first before representation. Yeah. It's such a... And people think, like, anybody who has a problem with, like, why they like gay or anything like that, it's not because they're gay, it's because they're thinking of the representation first rather than character. Like, that's what it is. So don't assume that, oh, we hate women or we hate gays. It's like, no, that isn't the case at all.
Because representation is not part of the story. It's something that's outside of it. And if representation makes you feel good on the outside, like in like a real life circumstance, then fair enough, good for you.
Yeah.
But I don't think that necessarily makes it a good film.
It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter at all.
It
shouldn't matter at all.
Yeah, within the actual context of the story, it doesn't matter. It's just...
That's why I have such a big problem with the whole women teaming up thing in Endgame because it doesn't make sense. First of all, it's not needed, and also Captain Marvel doesn't need help. It's like you're doing it for just representation reasons, and it's bad. Like it's bad because you're not thinking about the story first.
Yeah, whereas like they did there's a much better version of that in Infinity War with like Black Panther, sorry, not Black Panther, Black Widow, and Okoye and the woman from the Children of Thanos, where it's actually natural and it's part of the fight, and I really like that scene.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can tell like that's what they're doing, but it still makes sense at least.
Yeah, and it's much better because it's actually part of the battle. Whereas like an Endgame, it feels so forced.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Like and anyone who was in the middle of a battle, like who was smart, wouldn't do that. Like regardless of what your motivations are, like you would know that if you walked together like that in that kind of formation, it's highly likely that you may get attacked and you might die.
Yeah. But yeah, if they do Jane Foster right, then fine. But I'm worried because she's such a bad character in Thor 1 and 2. That's why people are pretty annoyed at it, because she's a terrible character.
And I know that like people are probably going to yell at me and be like, oh, you're only saying this because you disagreed with the Ragnarok stuff. But like, even then, like when I'm looking at it, putting aside my own subjective opinions, I also don't see how Jane Foster fits into this new version of Thor. She doesn't.
Yeah.
There's nothing about her that says to me that she would fit in with Taika Waititi's style at all. Nothing. She's almost
without like. It's just so. It's such a weird choice. I'm totally fine with there being like a female Thor, but I think it should just be a different character.
Yeah.
Maybe a brand new character, or like I feel like having it be Jane Foster, who's already an established character, is a poor choice because she's not a good character. She's not written well.
Yeah, like Jane Foster is such a classic Hollywood, like female character. And like when you watch Thor Ragnarok, like pretty much everything in that film is the opposite of that. There's nothing about the film that is Hollywood because it's so laid back and alien, and it's got all that New Zealand humor in it, and it doesn't like Jane Foster in Ragnarok just wouldn't work. It doesn't fit in with that style at all, and I'm sure that that's gonna be like with Love and Thunder, because obviously Ragnarok was a success. They're gonna want Taika Waititi to do more of what he did in Ragnarok. Yeah. I just don't see how Jane Foster can fit into that style because she just
like
so out of place.
Like, have people forgot that Thor 1 and 2 are some of the worst MCU films? Like, you can't praise it just because she's a woman. Like, remember that she was a character, and that character was bad, and she was in 2 of the worst MCU films.
I mean, like, I don't mind Thor 1, but I still think that film is almost completely the opposite of everything that Ragnarok is. So, even though I don't mind that film, I wouldn't want things from that film to be in this version.
Now,
because they don't mesh. They don't mesh well. No. Like fucking Frost Giants and Kenneth Branagh's like Shakespearean weirdness in a Ragnarok style Taika Waititi film is not. It does not work, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like
Jane Foster is the epitome of that.
Keep in mind that everybody loved Wonder Woman when it came out, and like that's a solo female actress taking the main role. So it's nothing to do because they're women. It's because they're thinking of characters first.
Also, does Marvel realize that the reason why Jane Foster in Endgame works is because it takes the piss out of her? Like it actually parodies how shit of a character she was by having.
She was a little flame of mine.
Yeah, and like by having Rocket like take an Infinity Stone out of her, like it actually parodies her, which is why we liked it. But no, now they're actually going to bring her back and have her be Thor, which is odd.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've completely gone off topic.
Yeah, really, yeah.
The trivia of X-Men 3. But I just, I think it's kind of fair. Like,
It's something that I think should be said. Like, people need to remember, like, Jane Foster's character was really bad. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that
especially,
just because it's
especially in Dark
representation.
World, especially in Dark World, she
Oh,
was,
she's awful in Dark World. She's
yeah,
awful.
yeah, yeah,
Stop acting as if she was a good character, because it's not true.
yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. Natalie Portman doesn't feel like she fits in with the Marvel thing. Like, her acting talent does not suit this style of film. As
No.
much as she maybe thinks she does, she's not like a fantasy franchise actress because
No.
she's shite in Star Wars as well.
Mhm.
um, like her best performances are in films like Black Swan, which are just absolutely nothing like this.
No. Yeah. Pretty much.
Best Ben Foster. Also another bit of trivia: Ben Foster, not the same person, but that name. Ben Foster was the conductor for Murray Gold's music on Doctor Who, and he is
Ah,
also the guy who composed the music for Torchwood. But it's not the same
right.
person as this actor who plays Angel.
No. Yeah, yeah,
Ben Foster, the guy who plays Angel, is actually scared of heights.
yeah.
Um, Many of the actors and actresses perform their own stunts. Uh, oh, so you know how I said Bryan Singer dropped out to direct Superman Returns?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Brett Ratner, the guy who did X-Men Last Stand, was considered for Superman Returns.
Lol.
So, like, originally it was going to be the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Um, Mystique's eyes are CGI. Yeah, we already knew that from the second
Second
one.
one. Yeah.
Has the biggest memorial box office opening ever until the record was beaten by Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. That's like another film that people say is like it's actually in a lot of ways, I would say it's probably overall a better film than this, but it's actually got a lot of similarities to The Last Stand, where it's like built up as like the finale of a trilogy, but it's blunted.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting to the end of that film and being like, oh, that was it.
Mm.
But at least Pirates of the Caribbean is fucking fun. Like it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, at least the first three were, and then it just became cash cow, and it became awful.
Yeah.
Um, all of the actors and actresses had only signed for 2 movies. New contracts had to be brokered for all of them. Maybe that's part of the why the budget was so big, because they had to
Maybe.
make new contracts for all of them.
Mm.
You know how on X-Men 2 you were saying that like sometimes Wolverine's hair was noticeably off? Was there any point in
Yeah.
this film where it was like that, or was it back to
No, I thought it was fine in this. It
yeah
was more like the very beginning when you first see him, is where it's very noticeable.
in X-Men 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think in this film it's not as bad. There are a couple of like points where it goes from being like quite buffy to quite flat on the top,
Yeah.
and that looks weird, but it's not as bad as X-Men 2.
Mm.
Um, there were characters called Fat and Spike in this film. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
Bryan Singer's plans for this movie were before his departure uh, were to feature Jean Grey resurrection plotline and to introduce the characters of Emma Frost and Gambit. Singer wanted Sigourney Weaver to play Frost and Keanu Reeves to play Gambit.
But this was all before Reeves' rebirth, so that would have been very odd at the time.
Yeah, this was during like when he was in American Pie films.
Mm.
You know how I was talking about like how Halle Berry is like a good actress, but she's in a lot of bad films.
Yeah.
I feel like back in the day, Keanu Reeves was like the opposite. Like he wasn't actually very good as an actor, but he was in a lot of really good films, like Matrix and American Pie and all that.
Yeah.
Although I'd say, and obviously Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, like he was obviously a teenager when he did that.
Yeah.
But like that's such an iconic film. But you know, you wouldn't give him an Oscar for his performance. Although I loved the Doctor Who references in that film because obviously they had time travel. Kelsey Grammer's casting as the Beast is somewhat ironic. In Frasier from 1993, which is the TV show, season 8, episode 12, The Show Must Go Off, Frasier, who is played by Grammer, goes to a comic book convention to look for X-Men comics for his son. Being a snob and obviously dismissing comics as lowbrow and unintelligent, he felt that the comic books would contribute to the decline of his son's intellect. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching Frasier a bit because it was like the only thing that was on TV after school.
My dad used to watch it a lot. So
Yeah.
I obviously have seen quite a bit.
Yeah. It was ages ago that I barely remember it.
Yeah, it was years ago.
Yeah. It's one of those TV shows that's shot with like a really stale camera.
Yeah, it's classic sitcom stuff.
Yeah. Everybody loves Raymond. Remember that?
Mm.
And then we'll have him play a woolly mammoth. Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, and Vinnie Jones appeared in the film Swordfish from 2001.
And they're all back for this.
Oh, Joss Whedon was approached to direct this film, but turned down the offer in favor of writing and directing a Wonder Woman movie, which never came through.
Oh,
God, Joss Whedon would have been
saved
perfect.
this probably.
He would have been. He was originally the writer of the first one, and then they redrafted it because it was too silly. But like, he would have been perfect for the series. Joss Whedon would have been the ideal choice.
All the characters that were wasted in this would have actually been good, I would bet.
Yeah, but he got his time with Avengers. He finally got it. His career has been interesting because he obviously did Firefly, which was like apparently like a brilliant show, but because the episodes were broadcast in the wrong order, it got cancelled early after like one season. And then obviously he had to do Justice League, which failed. But luckily for him, he managed to have Avengers, which is his like pinnacle. Cyclops sunglasses are modified from Oakley's penny model, with a custom tint created specifically for this film. What? Why? He was barely in the film. Oh, the first X-Men movie in which Rebecca Romijn isn't credited as Rebecca Romijn Stamos, following her divorce from John Stamos. Wow. Didn't realize that was why her name was like that. The automobile Professor X and Magneto used in the beginning is a Mercedes-Benz 600. In 1996, Brett Ratner was a candidate to direct the first X-Men film, so apparently he was originally going to be one of the choices, but he ended up doing this one. So despite the fact that this film had the highest budget ever when it came out, it was the 7th highest grossing movie of 2006.
So yeah, big disappointment.
So let's have a look. I'm going to look up 2006 films, because we did this last time with X2, how it was like the 8th highest. Children of Men, obviously. Alfonso Cuarón, genius. Then you also had Casino Royale, which was a smash hit. And you had Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Really? I thought that was 2004. Oh no, it was 2006. Weird. And you had Cars as well. And you had Borat. And the Da Vinci Code. So yeah. And Miami Vice was that year as well, and obviously Superman Returns. And even though Superman Returns was trash, like you can imagine, like it would have made a lot of money because of the hype for it. That year also had Night at the Museum and Rocky Balboa, and Happy Feet and the Pink Panther. Wow, and She's the Man came out that year as well. I didn't realize. Oh, and The Pursuit of Happiness. Fucking hell, there's a lot of memorable films from 2006. The Lady in the Water, one of M. Night Shyamalan's failed experiments. Oh, I forgot. Oh, and The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift also came out that year as well. But a lot of people say that's like the worst one. So, because it's like, it doesn't have Vin Diesel in it. It's like kind of a spin-off. It's got Paul Walker though. And Pan's Labyrinth came out that year as well. That's quite a monumental film. So yeah, X-Men: The Last Stand compared to a lot of those is quite a disappointment, because a lot of films that came out in 2006 were quite good. I would say probably Casino Royale is the most notable one, because it was such a smash hit.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But yeah, 7th highest grossing movie of 2006. So they obviously didn't make as much money on it as they would have hoped, considering the budget. Considering it was double Revenge of the Sith, somehow. Which I don't understand. Again, we're being reminded that Anna Paquin won an Oscar, but Hugh Jackman and Ian McKellen were only nominated, which is odd. Fucking Ian McKellen doesn't have an Oscar, but Brie Larson does. What is this world we're living in? Ian McKellen is like 1,000 times better than her.
Yeah.
1,000. Like, he's brilliant.
He was in the goddamn Lord of the Rings films.
He was like the best part of Lord of the Rings. He's like one of the best parts of X-Men. His performance as Gandalf is Oscar worthy, in my opinion. Like, he is like, how the fuck did he not win an Oscar? And Brie Larson did. Like, that's just ridiculous. But oh well, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just some kid who's I'm not an expert. Like Captain America: Civil War, this movie is about the right to choose. In this movie, the American government gives mutants the choice to be cured or keep their mutant powers, and the mutant cure soon results in civil war between the X-Men and the Brotherhood, as Magneto offers those who refuse to join his side and oppose the American government.
One's just better than the other by a massive margin.
Yeah. Because the reason why we love Civil War is because by the time we get to it, we are fully invested in all the characters. And seeing characters that you love fight each other, it's for like completely understandable reasons. It's like is one of the best pieces of storytelling you can do, really.
Yeah.
Because it makes you think. Which is like weird. It's weird how they market it as like, oh, are you Team Iron Man or Team Captain America? Like that was a bit odd because that's not what the film's about.
Yeah.
Like I heard like one of my friends from work said that like he was Team Iron Man just because he likes him more. And I was like, but what about like the context of the film? Did you think about like the motives behind the different characters? He's like, nah, I just like Iron Man more, so I'm angry that he didn't win.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of viewer is robbing themselves of like a great experience.
Mm.
But I can't force people to think. Instead of a high-dollar CGI to create Colossus's transformation, a reflective, form-fitting bodysuit was created and worn by Daniel Cudmore in some scenes. Well, I mean, this film is already high-dollar CGI everywhere else. After Matthew Vaughn left production on the film, another person left production on this film. He was going to direct Thor, but also left that as well. Wow. I think, from what I can tell, I think Thor was a film that was in development for quite a while.
Yeah.
Which is probably why it turned out a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I forgot about Stanley's cameo. That was brief but really funny. And like his hose starts like he loses control of his hose. Did you notice that?
What?
The scene where Stan Lee like loses control.
Oh
of
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's pretty funny.
It's right at the start of the film as well.
Yeah. I'm honestly like can't even remember if he's even in the second X-Men film. Like
No, I generally can't remember.
X-Men 2
I don't remember seeing him at all.
X-Men 2 Stan Lee. Oh. No. Can't find anything. Oh, well, maybe he wasn't in it. The body count of this film is 200. But who cares? Because all the characters are underdeveloped.
Mm.
The filmmakers intended the death of Professor Xavier to be a dramatic turning point. Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn were initially cautious of killing Xavier, but grew to like the idea, saying it paralleled the end of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. To keep Xavier in the X-Men franchise, though, they wrote a post-credit scene.
Mm.
So it references a Star Trek film that he wasn't even in. That's the one where they put like the worm in the air and it's yuck. Okay. That's all the trivia.
Oh.
Okay. Give your conclusion and a rating out of 10 for X-Men: The Last Stand.
Right. X-Men: The Last Stand is known to be like one of the worst superhero films ever, and while I don't think it is, it's still not good. There's a lot of characters that are wasted, especially people like Cyclops, who literally just die after 2 scenes, and it doesn't mean anything. The plot could have been really interesting, but there isn't much there to latch onto. Jean slash the Phoenix is kind of a side villain that becomes the main villain by the end. Magneto is kind of wasted, I would say. Why he's still good. I'm going to give this like a 4 out of 10, which might be a little bit higher than what I've originally thought, but it's still low. It's still not good.
That's like on par with Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Mm. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 1 is still pretty bad.
And Incredible Hulk, which ironically is Zack Penn as well.
Yeah, and it's the same level. Oh no, it's just below Venom, because I think I gave that a 7.5.
7.5?
I mean 4.5, sorry.
Jesus.
4.5, sorry. No.
She really liked Venom.
I think no. It was. I think I gave Venom a 4.5, so it's just below Venom because Tom Hardy is great.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Wolverine and Magneto and Professor X are great too, but they're just not used, really.
No. This is a poor film, but it's not the worst I've seen. So.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the worst thing we've reviewed.
Way worse.
Yep.
That and Captain Marvel, I would say, is on the.
Because at least I can watch The Last Stand and like not want to die.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's disappointing, but it's not that bad. Come on.
No.
It doesn't have like fucking meth Green Goblin, like Jamie Foxx fixing his teeth, and Peter Krabs stalking his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And just terrible dubstep and direction that makes you want to vomit.
Yeah.
But yeah, X-Men: The Last Stand is a disappointing ending to the trilogy. It blunts every storyline and every character. It is the most mediocre like attempt at an epic finale possible. And my feelings on it are probably, I would say, absolutely 100% indifferent, which I think means that it deserves the most average score ever of 5 out of 10. So, like, that's like my feelings on it are the same as like the Battle of Ran Skorav Kolos, where it's like I feel absolutely nothing about it one way or the other. I don't hate it. I didn't get angry at it, but there's just nothing.
Pretty much. Absolute
indifference. Which is a shame, because I was like, maybe this will be the good one. Maybe if I watch it again, like, you know, it'll be better than the first two. Nope. Somehow it's not. And I was gonna say, like, hopefully next time we'll finally get a good X-Men film, but I just remembered the next one is X-Men Origins Wolverine, which a lot of people say is the worst one. So, and it's, you know, directed by David Benioff, who is one of the men that ruined Game of Thrones. So, we've got that to look forward to. Yay. You know, I was wanting to say, hopefully, you know, it'd be great, because next time we'll have a film that focuses around Wolverine, which is a character that I really enjoyed, that I want to see like more of. And then, but you know, I've heard that it's shite, so
yeah.
Oh dear. But you never know. Maybe it's brilliant. But
maybe it will surprise us.
Maybe every single person who's ever seen that film is wrong. Who knows? But yeah. Anything else you want to say about X-Men: The Last Stand before we finish?
Bleh.
Oh, that sounds about right. Okay. See you next time for X-Men Origins Wolverine.